Wait, you roast coffee?
Yep.
Gosh, isn't that hard?
Nah, it's got a minimal startup cost and pretty good bang for the buck.
Really?
I'd even say it pays for itself. You could take $7 per pound green coffee and convert it to roasted coffee that would cost more like $20 a pound.
No kidding.
Actually, home roasting was a common household chore up until the 17th century and the Industrial Revolution. Home roasting became a bit of a lost art, but today, there's a well-established nerd community and lots of resources for those so inclined.
Like you?
Like me.
How did people get started roasting to begin with?
The exact details are lost in time and shrouded in speculation and mystery. Coffee has been a cultivated crop in Yemen since as early as 575 AD and possibly before that in Ethiopia. There wasn't exactly a big glut of food bloggers back then, so records aren't great. But a common use for the coffee fruit is...
There's fruit in coffee?
No. Well, yes. Coffee beans are actually the seed of a fruit that grows on coffee shrubs. Think of a cherry.
I love
It
cherries!
was common in the Middle East to use the fruit to make tea. This tea is called kushir, and it is still popular to this day. You make this tea better by toasting the fruit. See where I'm heading?
I love cherries!
Probably roasted coffee seeds was an accidental byproduct.
Makes sense.
We hate coffee.
Well, you're a cow.
Good point. Good point.
Just as roasting improves the flavors, the compounds created are exposed and volatile.
Violent?
Volatile, as in easily damaged or lost.
Ah, right.
The roasted bean becomes this porous container full of yummy compounds. In fact, you may have noticed darker roasts allow oils to actually seep out onto the surface of the bean. Oxygen degrades the volatile compounds.
Violent?
Volatile. So, oxygen degrades the volatile compounds, causing the coffee to go stale.
If you want fresh flavor, roasting is the way to go. I assume I'll need some beans.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Sweet Maria's in Oakland. They are insanely knowledgeable, often deal directly with small farms and collectives to source their inventory, and provide a ton of details about origin, processing, flavors, and roasting notes.
What equipment do I need?
You could start out with just a gas oven or a stovetop pan. Dedicated roasting gear comes in two main types, hot air and drum roasting. Hot air roasters are basically fancy popcorn poppers. As an example, here's my old air roaster. It lasted 10 years. That's pretty good value. Drum roasters are a bit more expensive, but generally can handle bigger batches. This is what most retail coffee is roasted with. There's also a healthy DIY crowd.
Calling all maker nerds.
Exactly. But you're building fairly complicated machines. A favorite of mine is the heat gun and flour sifter crowd.
What are you rocking now?
I found a lightly used drum roaster on eBay. I'm sure I'll get years of use out of it.
Looks rad. So how does roasting work?
Regardless of equipment, it's pretty much the same drill. Heat up the beans until they crack and the sugars start to caramelize.
They crack?
Yep. When you heat coffee beans, 4 basic things happen. Heat forces water out of the bean as steam. Heat and the expanding steam act on the cellulose bean material, which dries and expands, forcing the bean to crack. The sugars in the bean caramelize. This provides access to the oils and other compounds within the bean. As you know, caramelized anything is delicious. Continued heating transforms all the flavorful compounds into more and better flavorfuls. Heat also starts the conversion of sugars into CO2.
And the cellulose, that's a wood, right? So you can catch it on fire?
Right, for real. The chaff from the bean can also catch fire. Fire in coffee roasting is a real hazard.
Super dark roast.
Right. That's coffee that they serve at diners and gas stations. It's a different flavor profile for sure.
Got it. So short of fire, how do you know when it's roasted enough?
It's actually pretty easy. You can use sight and smell reliably and bean temperature with the right equipment. However, sound is the number one and easiest way.
Sound?
Remember, we're causing a bunch of tiny pieces of wood to crack open.
Oh!
The first crack is pretty audible, a loud, sharp breaking of the still relatively green coffee. This is considered the first drinkable moment. It's a pretty lively moment in the roast, and hard to miss. Not long after, a second crack occurs. At this point, the temperature gets high enough for a pyrolytic reaction to begin running under its own power. The weakened bean continues to crack further, but with a softer, more muted sound. This is considered the upper bound of a craft roast.
So after the first crack, but not after the second.
Right, that's it. Beyond this, you're doing more to char cellulose than anything else, and in fact, you're beginning to destroy the volatile compounds you just created. Here's a handy chart with various roast levels and what to expect as a result of each one. I look at it all the time.
You did a lot of talking to explain roast until it cracks, then stop.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, duh.
And that's it?
That's it.
Cool. Can I try some coffee?
You're 11, so no. Let's stick with gin for now.
Thanks, Pop.
Well, duh.
Take one, go.
Duh.
Yep.
Say it again.